What's cracking, everybody? Felrose here, bringing you some Pokemon Go Badly content. And in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a rehash of the team that I ran in the last Evolution Cup that was absolutely busted. Good old Pumbaa the Piloswine himself. We've got the Dusclops as the core mate and a Shadow Dragonair in the place of Shadow Golbat that we had the last time round. Now, this team is ridiculously strong. Piloswine is absolutely busted. Avalanche hits this entire cup just about for incredibly strong damage, and it's just so good. So the entire Patreon Discord that I have is running. That is not a Steel type Ice Punch. I'll fix that in a minute. Patreon Discord's been absolutely clapping cheeks with this team, so congratulations to everybody who's been doing real well with the team. And if you'd like to join the Patreon Discord, get access to teams like this that clap cheeks and all the other things that I can think of for this game, meta-analysis, teams, strategies, all the like. Link in the description under Patreon. You can check that out, as well as some coaching if you're looking to up your game, get to the better part of the next level of your play. Just go ahead and check out that awkwardly said sentence, but you know what I mean. I do this in one take, leave me alone. And I was trying to fix the Ice Punch, so leave me alone. Medify, link in the description anyway. Team battles, let's have it. So anyway, we've got Piloswine against a Vigoroth. This is actually a really bad lead. So we got to go right into the Dragonair, and one of two things is going to happen when I go into this Dragonair. The opponent's going to stay in, and they're going to try and throw a charge move at me, or they're going to just dip out immediately. And this is fine, because honestly, they're going to come with their own Dragonair, but now I'm going to get a shield right back, or I force switch advantage off of my opponent, which is nice. So they're going to shield this back up, and then what's going to happen is, look at the HP range. I can shield one time here and get a nice fat farm off of this Dragonair, and that's going to allow me to hit the Vigoroth. And remember how much health it had left? That's the reason why this works so well. Because if they stay in to throw that body slam, now they're within range of an Avalanche KOing, so I get their second shield right back. And then I can dip right into my Dusclops if I'd like, but in this case I tried to catch the body slam on my Dusclops, which unfortunately did not quite go as planned, but the opponent also counter swaps into his Wireless, which is really bad. But, however, something else that my Piloswine can farm down and get off against the opponent. So, an Avalanche off against the opponent. So they're going to go ahead and they're going to throw this Dark Pulse at me for sure right now. Now, here's the thing. I did undercharge this on purpose because I was trying to give my Piloswine some extra farm. Unfortunately, you're going to find out that I didn't quite give it enough, and it just needed a couple more Powder Snows to get there. But we lived the Avalanche, or we lived the Body Slam, but because we didn't have that one move ready to go, I missed the transition, whatever. We didn't have the Avalanche ready to go, we take a loss. But that's the only loss. The video after this is all wins, I promise. So this is some good content. Right? Everybody loves watching people win. But these are two straight sets. I went from 9-1 and I went right up to Expert. I took an Expert rip with this team. And I mean, when we had the team in the Evolution Cup last time, I went back and I looked and I gained about 400 points with this team. Now, Shadow Golbat was in place of the Shadow Dragonair before. So both versions of that team work. Now, about Dusclops, in this particular team, if you'd like to try it, you do need to have the purified version of the Dusclops, or you're going to have a Shadow Dusclops. The reason why is because a regular Dusclops without return or any other way to deal more damage outside of that Ice Punch is not actually going to be able to beat Vigoroth straight up in the ones. So it's actually very important to have either return or the extra oomph that comes with the Ice Punches from the Shadow version. So keeping that in mind, if you do have a regular Dusclops that does not have return or isn't Shadow, you can still run it in a team. I just probably wouldn't run it in this exact comp. You could do something like safe swapping that Dusclops and keeping Piloswine in the lead, and then maybe using something else to close. Maybe, for example, you've got... so it just needs to be a hard counter to Vigoroth. Now, the reason I went with a Dragonair in this case is because in this particular cup, Dragon and Ice are pretty good damage types to have because for the most part they're unresisted. There's really not very many steals in this cup that do anything. Now here I swap into my Piloswine, kind of getting back to the battle. I swap in my Piloswine here to force the opponent to throw energy so that I can get to this Ice Punch, but they are able to get to a move, but I still have a shield. And I didn't want them to get to 2 moves against me and throw a Dark Pulse, so I just swapped in to the Piloswine to try and catch that. But anyway, we're going to take an Ice Punch to the face of the Zoilus and take him out, and that's going to be a good one. So next up, we're going to have Piloswine on the lead versus a Golbat. Now, this is what you love to see. Now, here's the thing. You have to stay in with the Golbats. And if the opponent is staying in, there's just about a 150,000% chance they've got something in the back that's weak to Piloswine. And you can do one of 2 things here. You can either do what I just did, throw a couple Powder Snows, and if the opponent doesn't swap, you keep the Piloswine healthy and you swap out to try and draw out whatever that other thing is, then you're going to give Piloswine some farm. The other thing that you could do is you could just stay in and deal with the Golbat and just make sure you don't tank a Shadow Ball. Or maybe swap out after you know, get the first Avalanche in the shield at that point. Because there's going to be a Vigoroth in the back for sure. When there's a Golbat in the lead, it's almost a God-given thing that's going to happen. You can't avoid it. It's just written in the laws of Go Battle League Evolution Cup that when there's a Golbat in the lead, there's a Vigoroth in the back. So what I do here is I overwhelm them by throwing both of those Avalanches to get both of their shields. Now suddenly I have my Dusclops versus a Vigoroth and a Golbat, and I have moves for both. And I'm going to throw this Ice Punch because they swap out, and that's fine with me. I can either save the shield for Piloswine, or I can use it on my Dusclops and just continue to go nuts now. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw the Ice Punch here. I'm not going to give my opponent the chance to throw a Shadow Ball at me. And I'm going to force them to come back in with the Vigoroth and throw that Bulldoze. The Bulldoze is going to probably come close to KOing, but if they're not able to get to it, which here they were not, then I can just come in with Piloswine at this point, force them to throw energy, which now is going to allow me, because my Dusclops double resists the counter damage, I can come in with Dusclops, get to the Ice Punch, and shield whatever move they throw. Now here I make a little bit of a flex call, because I think I was counting, and I think that they may have been at like 12, and I'm like, the only way that I actually win this is by calling this bait, because if they get to a Bulldoze right after this, it's over. But make the call, no shield to body slam, and able to take that one. Thank you to my opponent for baiting. This is why I don't like baiting. So here we have a Dragonair lead. And once again, we do the same thing like I mentioned with the Golbat, right? Because sometimes Piloswine often core breaks if it wins leads and the opponent just stays in, especially because there's definitely some leads that they can do that. So the opponent here, in this case, had a Shadow Dragonair on the lead, and they stayed in. So when I'm in good leads and they stay in, I always throw like 1 or 2 Powder Snows, and then I'll swap out to the Shadow Dragonair if my opponent decides they want to stay in, because look, there's a Golbat. And now I'm very happy that I kept my Piloswine healthy. Now, yes, the alignment is not going to be in my favor. Currently, they have their Golbat locked on to my Dusclops, and they have their Vigoroth locked onto my Piloswine. But Ice Punch is dangerous, and the switch clocks were very misaligned, so I'm actually able to get to an Avalanche here before the opponent is going to be able to get to a Shadow Ball. They didn't even bother building up to Shadow Ball here. They just went straight for Poison Fang, which means I'm going to be able to overfarm even more my opponent, giving themselves, unfortunately, a loss condition. Don't panic if you're at any point. Don't panic and throw a charge move just because you can. It's always in your better interest to go for the big move, right? Because had my opponent gone for the Shadow Ball here, I would have been forced to throw the Avalanche, and while I may not have been in as good of a position because my Dusclops was still alive, it still puts my opponent in a position where I can now overfarm as much as I want to until I get to whatever energy I'm looking to get to. And I'm just going to be able to secure the game that way. If they had gone over for that Shadow Ball, it would have forced me to throw my energy right away, which means I might not have had enough to deal with the Vigoroth, and they may have been able to make a really nice play off of that. Now, I don't know if it's going to happen or not, but this opponent swaps out immediately, so I can guarantee that they've probably got a very strong answer two very strong answers, I should say, in the back, or at least one strong and one okay answer in the back to my Piloswine. So I stay in here because I'm really not sure how to handle the Haunter safe swap, and I come in with my Dusclops here, and the reason why I do this is because I want the energy on my Dusclops to get used, but I want it to get used on this And there's Wireless in the lead. Because my Dragonair, what's going to happen is I'm going to have to force myself to shield an Ice Punch afterwards, which I don't want. I guess I could technically say I forced myself to shield the Shadow Punch here too, but I would still rather be able to come in with the super effective damage of the Ice Punches, because I know that my Dusclops is going to be able to get a couple off because my opponent instantly swapped out. They have to get up to a Dark Pulse in order to take out my Dusclops, so I can safely go for 2 Ice Punches here. Force the final shield off of my opponent, and even force them to almost throw, but my opponent swaps in the middle of the move, which allows me to react appropriately and not throw that Ice Punch. They were looking to catch the Ice Punch. Instead, they're going to catch a return, which is going to do a lot of damage. Now, I'm going to no-shield this Body Slam. I know very well that the Body Slam from the Vigoroth does not come close to KOing. Should hopefully be able to farm down before they get to a move, which they do, and now it's just up to Dragonair to do as much damage to the Zweilous as possible before going down, which should be just about all of it because they have no shields left. And the opponent goes for a CMP Body Slam, they undercharge, and they kind of know they lost, so that's going to be a good game to my opponent. So next we're going to have Piloswining as Hakamo. Now here's the thing with Hakamo is it does have Brick Break, but Brick Break is also not a great damaging move. So what I'm doing here is I'm throwing with good timing. My opponent's either going to let me get a free Powder Snow through to try and throw their move, or they're going to try and throw with good timing, which means I'm going to be able to get my move off beforehand. Now, it was risky to do that. My opponent very well may have thrown a move in there, and if it was a Brick Break, I may have been forced to shield. Now, when it comes to the Brick Breaks, I do decide not to shield. And speaking of shields, here's a Chansey. Look at this shameful trainer. Oh, you guys are going to love tomorrow's video. Just watch. Look at this. Look at this thing. Look at this disgusting creature on the this green, disgusting circular thing on the other side of the field. This is just a teaser for tomorrow's video. Shrek? Is that you? She says Shrek. Oh, God, I love my wife. I'm just going to go straight for returns. There's no way I actually win this matchup. Chansey is just a massive pain, and I mean, there's like nothing in this cup that actually, honestly beats it. Aside from like Machoke and I think maybe Vigoroth if you play out the 2s. I think that's about it. So I'm just going to say I'm going to let this go. The switch clocks are misaligned. My opponent now, while they do have their Vigoroth now aligned to my Piloswine again, I'm going to be able to just go straight for Avalanches here, and I'm going to be able to get to 2 Avalanches before they can take me out, plus we CMP. So this is going to put me in a really good position to try and load up on some energy on Dusclops or just farm straight down with Dragonair. And the Hakamo in back is reasonably kind of low, if I remember correctly, because of the damage from the Piloswine. And then I think it may have taken an Ice Punch. I don't know. I'll have to go back and I have to think. I'm shoutcasting and I'm not paying attention to the battle as much as I do when I'm playing it. Sue me. It's a stupid Chansey. The whole thing got screwed up because of the Chansey. It's Chansey's fault. Yeah, see, it had about 50% HP, so I can shield this up. I'm not as worried about the Chansey. I know they can run Dazzling Gleam, but essentially at this point, Chansey is basically going to be a giant meat shield, and I have to find my way through this meat shield with the HP that I've got left on my Dragonair. Now, thankfully, Shadow Dragonair is a lawnmower that just shreds through all little green things like grass. So I'm going to shield this up knowing that it's going to take them like 20 headbutts to get to the next move. And I have to be cognizant of the fact that I'm probably going to need about 2 more Body Slams to take this out. Now, why do I go Body Slam over Aqua Tail? Just comfort, ease of hitting the button. I do here attempt to catch a move. I don't know why. I had gotten to the move and I could have just gone for it. I pretty much could have lost myself the game by doing this. And I think I did because they did fire off a move here. It was on CMP, it looks like. So, bye Chansey, screw you and don't come back because nobody likes you. Next game here, we've got Piloswine on the lead versus Sealeo. So this is a rough one that you can't really swap out of right away. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build up to the high horsepower, and I'm actually just going to throw the high horsepower. Now, in the old version of the team, I was running Stone Edge, and I could certainly run Stone Edge again. I think it's just going to come down to whatever you see. I feel like the only thing that Stone Edge does is hits the other ice types, which is literally just Sealeo. And I'm pretty sure that high horsepower does a good enough job. Now, what I do here is I look to swap and catch the Body Slam on the Dusclops because this is really not a great thing, but they actually throw an Aurora Beam here. And they swap in a Vigoroth into the Dusclops, and I don't know if my opponent knows this matchup very well, but I'm going to let him have it. They can have it. They can have the whole thing. I'm going to go for their Bulldoze, and that's fine. The Body Slam plus counter damage will be enough to KO my Dusclops at this point, so I'm just going to go hopefully for an Ice Punch if I can, or if I'm going to go for the return here. No, I start building up all the way to the return to force them to throw their energy, because if I were to throw the Ice Punch here, just similarly like what I was talking about before, if I just were to throw the Ice Punch for chip damage, that would allow them to farm me all the way down, and that would be a lot worse for my Dragonair, because I don't want to have to tank 2 Body Slams on it. And I really don't want to tank 2 Body Slams on my Piloswine either. Now, here's the thing that happens. The opponent decides to not shield this, which really puts me in a position to throw this high horsepower. Now, if my opponent shields this, it's dangerous. But my opponent lets it go. They decide that it's not worth their last shield. They have a Vigoroth with a little bit of HP left and something else in the back. They bring in the Vigoroth to try and counter me down. And what's in the back? It's a Charge-a-Bug, which is we're double resisting the spark damage from this thing. And if I just put 1 shield, I should easily be able to get to 2 avalanches. And the thing is here, though, is because they have a shield, I will probably need a 3rd avalanche. So I need to try and catch a move on my Dragonair or get this thing low if an avalanche does enough damage to where Dragonair can just come in and threaten and force them to throw their energy, which is now exactly what happens. So I swap to try and make the catch. My opponent throws the energy because they have to, and I am now able to get 2 Powder Snows off and take out my opponent's Charge-a-Bug, and that's going to be a good game. So in this next one here, we've got Piloswine against a Haunter lead, and this is kind of an awkward one, but what I do here, I think, is I swap straight to Dragonair, and they swap straight to Vigoroth. So, awkward, but if they didn't instantly swap, Dragonair will easily chew through over half of a Haunter's HP before it can even get to a charge move. So that's kind of nuts, and that's the strategy that I like to use, because most of the time with opponents having Pokemon that are super spammy, they like to stay in, throw the move to chip, and then leave. So I use that to my advantage, and my opponent here is not willing to give up another shield on their Vigoroth to get that Body Slam off, and I'm able to get my own Body Slam off right before my opponent would farm me down with the Sealeo. But right now, what I've got is I've got my Dusclops on the Sealeo, which is great because those hexes do a fair amount of damage when you look at it over the course of, you know, farming and whatnot. It's going to put them down into a position where I can actually go ahead and just Ice Punch down if I want to. But what I'm looking to do first is I'm looking to throw this Ice Punch after building up a bunch of energy, hoping that my opponent shields, and they do, and I'm going to be able to get to this Ice Punch, but not before they get to 1 charge move. And I think I'm just going to shield this up here, go straight for the Ice Punch, and then go for the farm down on my Piloswine and try to high horsepower the opponent's Sealeo. But unfortunately, they are able to get to a charge move here, which is very dangerous. Just a Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch is a little bit less farmy than, or a little bit less energy required. I think it's like 35 energy. And my opponent's Body Slam is not enough. They know I'm going to get to the high horsepower and take them out so they can see it. But Shadow Punch, thankfully, despite how crazy... Oh, good. This is a good game. I'm hard countered all the way through this game. Watch this. So, we get the big lead. Swap to the Dragonair. Opponent comes in with Hakumo. And I'm like, okay, crap. So, I throw the Body Slam in the middle of the move just because I want to either get the shield or, you know, do the damage. My opponent lets that go. I easily take switch. My opponent does not let that go. And instead, rather, what happens is they leave with a bunch of energy loaded. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come in with Piloswine. I know that they were at like 6 Dragon Claws, I think. Or Dragon Tails. So I'm going to no-shield this, thinking it was a Brick Break. I'm like, I'm not going to use my shield on this Brick Break. I'm just going to let it do however much damage it's going to do. But they hit me with a Dragon Claw instead. So it might be a single-moved Hakumo, which is fine with me. Vigoroth comes in, and now they take the damage from that Avalanche, and now they're in Ice Punch range. And now I'm gonna shield this Bulldoze because this is gonna be a heavier hitting move, and I'm like, there's no reason for them to throw anything else. So I'm gonna farm a bunch of energy. Remember, I have a Purified Dusclops, so I'm gonna throw Ice Punches. I'm like, I'm probably gonna lose this game. I'm just gonna throw as many Ice Punches, but my opponent shields and opens up the doors for the win condition right here. So I'm just gonna chip again with an Ice Punch. My opponent probably thought I may be running Poltergeist, which I'm not. Definitely not running Poltergeist. So I'm going to let it go in case they are running Poltergeist. And now, this is... Oh, there you go. Oh, where's the button? I got to get it. Okay, Poltergeist absolutely claps the cheeks off of my Dusclops. So, after that, I assume that they've probably drained their energy dry. So I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, throwing my Avalanches with good timing. And what I need to do here, folks, is I need to get my Piloswine close enough to the next Avalanche to be able to take it out right before the counters hit me, and I'm going to be able to take this one because I'm not going to lie, I'm an absolute G. I don't usually toot my own horn, but that was a great battle. I played my butt off in that one, and that was well played to my opponent, though. They played it really well. So another Vigoroth lead here. So once again, going to the Dragonair. My opponent, and keep in mind in the last game, my opponent decided not to stay in. They swapped out right away into the Hakamo, so that made it so that they could have tanked an Avalanche on the Vigoroth if they wanted to. So this person's going to come in with a Dusclops, and now I'm going to go for the Aqua Tails. They're running Feint Attack Dusclops, which is sort of rough, but I'm glad it's out here now instead of on my Dusclops. I have to let this go, I think. It's a Shadow Punch. Thankfully, they're not running Ice Punch, or they just didn't bother to try and get one off here. Maybe they didn't go up to the energy required. I know that Feint Attack isn't exactly the greatest energy-generating move, but they're in a perfect range for me to farm down with Piloswine and do exactly what Piloswine does against every bad Vigoroth lead. Farm up to an Avalanche and fire the Avalanche off and force my opponent to shield or take a lot of damage. So this is going to get another shield. And then my Dusclops is up 1-0 shields. And there's very few things in this meta that this Dusclops cannot beat with 1-0 shields. Even a Charge-a-Bug if I wanted to. Now here's the beautiful thing about this is I've still got a shield. And I can actually choose whether I want to use this shield on Dusclops or if I want to use it on Piloswine, depending on how much damage this return does. If the return leaves the Charge-a-Bug within a reasonable farm down range, just like that, then I am going to save the shield for Piloswine, and then I'm going to let the Piloswine farm down and Avalanche the Vigoroth, just like this. And I will shield once here. I don't necessarily have to, but I'm pretty sure this is going to KO or come close to it if it's a crunch. So I'm just going to shield this up safely, go for the Avalanche when the Vigoroth comes in, and close the curtain on this battle and this video. That's going to be a good game. Well played to all my opponents here. Got a 9-1 rip right up to expert. Team is absolute stonks. This Piloswine is disgustingly strong, and that was a 5-0 to finish that set. That was, I love this team. I love this cup. Or at least until today. I did some sets today, and Chansey and hard counters and chokes and things were everywhere. So I had a bad time today. But the team otherwise does very well. So thank you all so much for watching. We're going to catch you tomorrow in an absolute banger of a video. Make sure you got your notifications and your subscriptions on because you're going to love it. Anyway, spoiler alert, we hate Chanseys. Anyway, thanks everyone. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.